You are about to witness a global movement. The medical system has failed us. Pharmaceuticals are designed to make us sick, weak, dependent. Not anymore. This is the Medicine Girl podcast with renowned healing expert and registered nurse Robin Stebbins. Every week, we shine the light on new ways to heal your body from the root, ignite your inner healer, and tap into your divine wisdom. Begin to live harmoniously with your mind, body, and spirit. You are stronger than you think, braver than you realize. Now is the time to wake up and start living healthier, wealthier, and laugh out loud happier. And here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast. I am your host, Robin Stebbins, and today I have Kassandra Rose with me. And Kassandra, before we get started, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the healing arts?
Ooh, a little bit, huh?
Just a little.
Okay, just a little bit. Let's see, a little bit about myself right now. I'm completely transforming my identity and who I used to show up as in the world and who I get to become in this next journey, this next pathway. I most recently sold a real estate company, a property management company near Seattle in King County, and currently live out in the country in central Washington on 8 acres with no neighbors and
Nice.
All of my favorite things from traveling all over the world.
And I love that you came to the healing arts through pain. I think most of us do. And I think we have this idea that we're broken somehow and we need to be fixed. And to that end, that brings me to the topic of our conversation today, and being in a relationship with a narcissist or a narcissist sociopath or a narcissist psychopath, and trying to not stay too embedded in the labels, because I think we can get stuck there. And I think then we can start diagnosing everyone as a narcissist, or we're wondering if we are a narcissist, et cetera, et cetera. But what, in your experience, what is a narcissist and a narcissistic relationship?
I am 44 years of age right now. I did not get exposed to the word effectively or the definition until I was between the age of 40 or 41. Now, my first narcissist was my dad. I used to label him as a jerk. Like, why is he such a jerk? Why does he always mess with my head? I knew it was a head game, and I would actually give him credit for it. I'd go, my dad's clever.
Yeah.
Right? I needed something to make it make sense. He's super handsome. He's super tall. Women love him.
Charismatic, charming.
Yeah, and he makes my head hurt. And I know my heart hurts. But he never goes away. Like, he's never left me. He always comes back again and again and again. So the game's never over. I knew it was a game too. I knew it was a game. And I knew I was part of the game. But back then, like when I was little, I just thought I had to try harder. So when I was a little soul being, human experience, I thought, get good grades, look good, and you'll impress him. Then when I got to like my late teenage years, I remember middle teenage years, verbally abuse him, tell him what an asshole he is, and then he'll get it. That didn't work. Then it was like maybe my late 20s, try to be cool again and hip and just not bother him too much, and then he'll love me. Then I tried in my like 20s, 30s, I'll ignore him back. I'll treat him the way he treated me, then he'll get the lesson. And then it was like at the age of 38, I broke up with him. Like I had broken up with him so many times, but this time I meant it.
Right.
And I broke up with him. I broke up with all the toxic family members that behaved like him. What brought me to the healing arts, my pain was so undiagnosed. Everybody else had labels.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have bruises. I didn't have physical marks. Counselors told me that I was doing a pretty good job considering everything I'd been through. I had already watched my mom commit suicide, and hanging on to a pharmaceutical that someday she was going to take the right pill and she was going to be okay. Yeah. So I had witnessed all these things that didn't work. And I went into a yoga class and I heard about teacher training. And I wanted to know, why is it all these women are so nice to each other inside of yoga classes? Like, oh, it's so nice to see you. See you again. Okay, namaste. And I was just like, nah.
Right.
And I signed up for teacher training. And I said, well, if I'm not getting what I need out of going to the class, I want to know what the teacher knows. And in there, I was able to unpack this new way of thinking, this new information that had never been provided to me before. Energy was getting introduced to me for the first time. Energy getting introduced to me intellectually for the first time.
Yeah.
It was the great unpacking, the beginning, the planting of the seed of higher consciousness. My mother could never teach me about higher consciousness. She was relying on the pill to take care of her. My father was telling me whatever he wanted to tell me to keep the game going. My friends were drinking and drugging. I was putting myself in male-dominated industries because I had something to prove.
Right.
So none of that was working. And then I wrote a letter to my dad, to my family members, and I said this, and I'll never forget. I said, if you can't treat me with the love and respect that I deserve, I can no longer communicate with you. And I didn't say I don't love you, because that wouldn't be the truth. I said, I can no longer communicate with you, which meant no contact. I didn't even know, but I was beginning to do what the narcissism advice would later tell me has to be done in order to heal.
Right.
And so I was 38 when I did yoga teacher training. It was not until 40, 41, maybe 3-4 years later that I came across a book, and I actually pulled it out just so I could show it.
Yeah, Psychopath Free. Read that one.
And
I'll have all the links to all the book.
Everything clicked. It just went.
And that's what I wanted to say really quickly too. A couple things that you said. A lot of us don't realize we're playing a game because that's not how I'm wired. So it wouldn't occur to me that someone's using this as a game for as a means to an end. But in another book that's called The Narcissist Playbook by, I think it's Dana Morningstar. It uses the analogy of Lucy and Charlie Brown doing that regular routine where she holds up the football, convinces him to kick it. He does it, falls on his back and gets hurt, and she laughs. So I love this analogy though, because yes, and what Charlie Brown doesn't realize is they're playing a different game. Her game is to see if she can get him to convince him to make a fool of himself and laugh about it. That's her game. Right. He thinks maybe this time she's going to change. Maybe this time she's really going to hold the football for me, and it's going to be okay. So isn't this like it's the classic thing that A, I didn't realize I was playing a game, and B, I didn't realize it was a different game. We were playing completely opposite games. I was in and I wasn't, I don't say I was playing a game, but I truly believe that they could change. And we'll get into that later on, but the trauma bonding and all of that stuff just keeps us so enmeshed in that relationship. But also when you read these books early in the process or later on in the process, it's I can't describe the feeling.
You want to stand on a mountaintop or a rooftop and go, can anybody hear me? Hello. Like, this is out here. This is information.
Yes.
No counselor, no treatment center, no yoga center, no friend, no mentor, no boss, nobody, no doctor.
Yeah, $12.
Nobody told me about this.
$12, and I read this book, and I couldn't believe it. And I got my hands on every other book I could possibly get my hands on, because it was so healing. It was so healing because I started to truly believe that I was the crazy one. I was losing my mind. I was losing my sanity. I was losing my sense of self, slowly eroding over time. It's like, the frog's in the pot and you're just slowly turning up the water to boil, and you don't recognize it until I realized my creativity's gone. I'm losing my hair. I had to get extensions because my hair was like falling out, but I kept making excuses for it. Well, I'm getting older and I moved to a new place and I'm a little blah, 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 blah. So I just wanted to interrupt with the whole book thing. If you quit listening at this podcast and you don't take anything else, just peruse one of these books that I'm going to post the links to.
Another one, when I was in my narcissism healing process, because another good thing is don't stay in there. Hopefully you get the lessons and you get the unpacking. It's a process. You got to pull it all apart. You start rapidly connecting dots. But eventually, for me anyway, it's been 4 years now. I don't need the constant reminders anymore. I got it. I'm saturated. I got it.
Yes.
So,
and that's really important though to, and again, if you stop listening at this point, it's great to read the books, and it's great to determine if you are in a narcissistic relationship or manipulative relationship, but don't stay focused there. That's where you will absolutely positively get lost and you will not heal. Now you need to focus on what they saw in you that made you a target and heal that. So that's my next question is, in your humble opinion, what makes you a target, and what makes a good target or a supply for a narcissist?
My father was my first one.
So that would be stage one. Usually it's a
one of many to come.
Yeah. So usually when you are a target of narcissistic relationships, usually one of your parents or both were narcissistic.
Yep. You could even have a grandparent or something like that, but it usually comes from a parent and childhood trauma that's unresolved within you. So dad was my first one, and I learned by performing for my father that if I show up and I get good grades and I also went to 15 schools by the time I graduated. So I was always the new girl. I was always a target, if you will. Anybody who's moved a lot knows that as the new girl, we tend to be targets for other bullies or other people who aren't, balanced. And so I learned to navigate my way out of situations with my mouth. That gift to gab, that bit of a quick move, that intellect, that because my father challenged my mind so much, I didn't fit in with kids my age.
Right.
I had this advanced training. So now I can say, thanks, Dad. I couldn't always say that. So what I ended up doing is getting into sales. My mouth would create business opportunities for me. I could dress the part, look the part, I could show up, and I went into commission sales at the age of 18. But what everyone didn't know is inside, I longed to be loved. I longed for my dad's approval. I longed to understand my mother's depression. I wanted more. I wanted.
So you had a hole.
I wanted outside validation. I wanted validation.
So that would make the second beacon for a target.
Mm-hmm. I wanted validation. So
you were longing for something.
High confidence, low self-esteem, huge opportunity for all types of different levels of predators, not just one kind of predator. I invited them in. My friends were assholes. My lovers were assholes. My bosses were assholes. Everything I surrounded myself with were users, abusers. And as I would heal or self-regulate or find a way to put down the drink and not do the drugs that night and find a way to show up and be better, I would get ridiculed. I would get laughed at, mocked at. Anytime I started to feel better, it would be shut down.
So you were just in a really, really thick stew of toxicity. And again, you know, it's not our fault these things happen to us and the traumas happen to us, but then we vibrate and we start collecting more of it. So it can seem like, you know, C3PO, this is just our lot in life. You know, some people are meant for greatness and some people are just, you know, get the short end of the stick. So to get more specific. So, and I'm loving getting this picture, because I think, and I will fully admit I was one of them when I would see women in abusive relationships or men in abusive relationships leave. What's up? So what?
Right.
Just move on. And until I was in one, and it was like, why do I keep going back? Why am I so, it feels like an addiction. Why was I a target? And I kept thinking over and over, I'm broken. I need something to fix me, instead of finally realizing like, well, I'm not broken. I don't need to be fixed. I just need to heal those parts of myself that are attracting this type of relationship. What other parts of you put the sign on your forehead?
Was the one I had a child with. He is a malignant narcissist. And the malignant narcissist is wow. Like that, my dad was easy.
What's a malignant narcissist?
Malignant
don't know.
is they are not going to give up until they destroy. Yes. So my dad would lose interest. He'd leave me alone for a year because he really doesn't care. And I was the one going, why haven't you called me in a year?
Right.
The malignant is, I'm going to text you, tell all your friends, remind you, I will punish you, I will make you think that we're about to get along, and then I'm coming in with more.
Yeah.
The worst thing that he did to me was I wanted a child, and he was on the fence. He probably knew he shouldn't have one. And I convinced him, we should have a baby. I already had one and I want another one.
Yeah.
And when I left him, when my son was 2, I started to see the lots of pathological. So just flat, a malignant narcissist will just blatantly lie. They will make up things, and then so much so that they believe it themselves.
Right. And they try to bend your reality, even though you may have just witnessed something happen.
Yep.
They will lie about the thing that just happened.
And you will start to question your own sanity.
That's the gaslighting.
I
know what I saw. And you're telling me I didn't see that. And you do that enough times. You start to question, did I see it?
And then you're like, oh my gosh, you are hurting so bad. How can I help you?
Okay, that's the issue.
Even better.
But okay, so let's just keep ticking off these things. But that's the thing I want to bring up, is that you give them excuses because of your empathetic nature and your healing nature, and you're seeing it through your eyes, like that must be such significant trauma. Even though you finally come to realize, like, everyone has trauma, everyone has things that have happened to them to various degrees, but it's a choice to use that as a reason to hurt others, as opposed
I don't think back then, because so now I'm 20, keep in mind, I'm 25 when I met him. So I got to give myself a little bit of a break, you know. Yeah. And for younger listeners, listen up.
Well, and give yourself a break for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Don't stay trapped in
25 when I met him, 27 when I had a child with him, 30 when I left him, and I have been paying the price ever since. So much so that a malignant narcissist and narcissists who have children use their child as an extension of their own self. So this is no longer, there is no co-parenting. There is no, I would go to a baseball game with my son. He's out in the field playing. I would sit down on the bench. He and his people would get up and move to the other side of the bench. Like everywhere I go, it is a reminder that I'm not okay. I'm not welcome. I'm not good enough. Now,
and that's,
try to co-parent with that.
But have you heard the term flying monkeys?
Mm-mm.
That's a reference to the Wizard of Oz, but it's a term in narcissistic relationships where the narcissist usually has a band of flying monkeys around them that does the bidding for the narcissist. So they've said such horrible, manipulative things about you to their band of flying monkeys that they truly do believe you are this horrible, horrible person. And that's that part of that is so hurtful because especially if you're in their town or you've moved to their city, which is pretty common, they get you to move to their pond. So you're the little fish, they're the big fish. And then all of a sudden, these people that were so warm and welcoming look at you like you've killed a small family in Texas. Like how, what did I do? Why is everyone looking at me like I'm a social leper? And that can be very hurtful, but that's all part of the game as well. And that can be how they win.
Yep. So then add on that, and I didn't understand it until I got psychopath free. So up until this point, yoga started breaking me open. I hadn't read narcissist free, psychopath free. I still believed that if I just try hard enough, he will co-parent with me. Or how about this? How about you just hate me, but let's not affect my child. Like my child has nothing to do with this.
Lucy and Charlie Brown, you guys
procreated with
yes.
you. I'm so sorry that I procreated with you. I'm so sorry for that. I made the mistake.
Right. Please, like my bad, but
leave my child out of this. Like I do not want him to go through a life of misery. And then I got to learn about what's called parental alienation.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And thank you. Parental alienation is when they chip away at the child and they've already convinced all the friends, the environment, the family that you're the plague. And then they chip away at the child. And my son, I would say the first time, I would never talk bad about his dad. So there's good and bad about that because I'm always the one naively optimistic that we're all going to get along. And I don't know that my child's getting chipped away at. So I'm not counteracting that or correcting it. I'm just saying, so how was your time at your dad's? I hope it went well.
Yeah.
Not knowing that he's been programmed to question me and pick at me and poke at me, right?
Yeah, and it's really subtle. It's so subtle that you're the one that looks crazy if you say anything or if you don't say anything. And that's, really, again, it's so traumatic when it's your child. And I don't have a child with any of my narcissistic relationships, thank God. Thank God. But knowing the 5 years of hell that I went through, I cannot imagine if my son would have been slowly turned against me. I can't imagine that pain.
So I'll tell you, he was 12 years old once. So 10 years after we had left, you would think that he has moved on and we're just getting along. My son calls me up. He's 6th grade, 12 years old. Mom, come pick me up right now. Done. I'm self-employed, drop everything. I'm coming to get you. And I get him in the car. He's already walking. He's leaving his dad's house. He's walking. I go, get in the car. And I think, Is this the time I tell him? And he goes, I go, hey, bud, what's going on? And he goes, Mom, he makes my head hurt.
Oh.
He says that I say things that I don't say. And then he says that, and he's doing this word salad. He's trying to describe this pain that he's going through. And I go, oh my gosh. And I go, baby. Okay. I'm going to tell you something. How do I tell you? How do you tell a 12-year-old? How do you tell them? I'm just learning this stuff. Right? How do I tell him? And I go, sweetheart, your father may have a personality disorder. And I said, I'm not saying he's a bad man, and I'm not saying not to love him, but there's something that we need to talk about. We need to kind of start to unpack together. And I planted a seed that day, and I still didn't talk horrible about him, right? He's crazy. He's a pathological liar. Let me give you all the things he's done to me. I didn't do that. I just said, sweetheart, I need you to understand that there might be more going on with his mental, emotional being. And he instantly felt relief. He felt heard. He never brought it up again. He clammed up. And for the next 5 years, he's now 17. I lost him. I call it losing him to the dark side. I lost a living child. And that is something, that is a pain that I never saw it coming. Dad was a narcissist, abandoned, went to 15 schools by the time I graduated. Mom committed suicide because of depression, worked in male-dominated, icky industries. I could handle all that. None of it was resolved, keep in mind. I'm still a gaping target. But I could handle that. No effing way can I handle losing a living child to what? Not to cancer, to manipulation,
right?
Pure deceit, to the fact that I'm just such a horrible person. I had seen drug addicts get their children back. I was a successful entrepreneur with a nice house and nice cars. I'm willing to go to therapy. I'll pay for it all. And I'm the bad guy.
And I think, and this speaks so clearly to the level of manipulation and the subtleties and the fact that it's on purpose.
It's on purpose.
This personality disorder, and again, we're such prime targets because I'm so empathetic. I have this no man left behind idea. Mm-hmm. Like no one, it doesn't matter what they've done, deserves a second chance. They deserve to be forgiven. That was my toxicity. That was my mistake. That was what left me so vulnerable and kept going back. But to have that level of manipulation and to have it from the beginning, everything they do is for a ulterior motive or for a reason to, some it's to destroy you, some it's just fun, some they like to watch the world burn. Mm-hmm. And I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe somebody was that dark. And again, that was my fault. And I finally had enough. First, it was somebody telling me to read a book about narcissism and sociopath. Second was he tried to get between my son and myself. And I saw it because I'd read the books. Mm-hmm. Had I not read the books, I would not have seen it. And I'm a smart person. Mm-hmm. And I've committed myself to self-help and read every book on the planet to try and understand myself better and improve myself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I was no match for this. And even now, reading all the books on narcissism and sociopathism and psychopathism, I will never win. And I know that.
Yes. Right. But
rule number one, you will not win. The only winning is leaving and no contact.
Yep.
No contact.
No contact.
But
so can I give you the next narcissist, the next sociopath, yes. The one that really brought it home for me to get me to face my ego and my shadow. So I'm living in grief I'm living in loss. I'm swimming in addiction. I'm trying all the things. I'm reading all the words, right? It wasn't like I wasn't performing. I was showing up. I'm willing. I'm grateful. I'm surrendering, all of it. It's still not working. Why? I built a company during this time. So about 6 years after my mom died, I built a company. I was still sick back then. High confidence, low self-worth, new problems in there. I was working in narcissistic, male-dominated industries. I desperately wanted to get away from them, but the money was so good and I didn't know how to reinvent myself without going back to school and starting all over. And I felt like I didn't have time for that. Like, I already know how to make money. I already know how to be a leader. Like, why would I start over? Why are these guys trying to destroy me? Why do they always want to stop me? And I built a business. I had no family, because remember, I had broken up with all the people, all the things.
Which makes you another beacon as well. Like,
yeah, and I'm super worried about being lonely. Like, maybe I'm going to be alone for the rest. Like, I don't fit in the world. I don't have a place. And so I shared this with a gentleman that I met at a foreclosure meeting. And the idea was that I got laid off from my position, and I needed to reinvent myself. And I went to every person that I knew in this shitty network. It's like shopping at the Nordstrom rack, okay? You go to the rack and you dig through a bunch of things you don't need and you try to find the best of the crap on sale and go, okay, do I need that? I don't think I do, but it's the best of the crap. So this one man said, Kassandra, I never want to get into property management again, but I see your talent. I see your work ethic, and I would do it one more time with you. And I had just got laid off. I had a $3,000 mortgage. I had an ex that's a malignant narcissist. At this point, I didn't know the definition. I needed somebody to believe in me. I needed somebody to love me more than anyone knew. And he became
yet another.
Do we see where this is going, everybody?
Yeah. I just want to make, I really want to make these points clear though, because if you see any of these in yourself, be very, very cautious about being in any relationship, family, business, especially romantic. So please go on.
So the second chance people is who I gravitate towards the most. I'm working in Kirkland where everybody has money and they've got fancy cars and fancy boats and it's all. And last year I hit a place where I had finally met my love, my rock, my strong man figure who isn't intimidated by me, who loves all the facets of Cass, who allows me to break apart and fall apart and doesn't threaten to leave. All of it, all those things.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's another podcast.
But that's a testament too, though, especially if somebody is in a relationship that's narcissistic and manipulative. It is very possible to heal, and it is possible, you know, once you are solid in yourself and you're not seeking anything outside of yourself to fill that hole, you've done it from the inside, you can absolutely find a healthy relationship.
I call it the foundation. You have to have a foundation. I needed a foundation to fall apart on so that I could build myself back up. Up to this point, I had never, everything I did still worked. Even though it was sick and it was ugly and it was messy and it was sloppy and there was loose ends, I was still pulling it off. I was still making it ring, right? Yep. On the outside, I still had the confidence going, right? And so this is where the universe comes in and goes, oh, no. Let's introduce karma. Karma is not necessarily a bad thing, but what it is a forward motion of actions from your past. I took actions in my past where I had a low self-worth and built $1 million company on that low self-worth. I attracted the bookkeeper, the mentor, the best friend, the man I put in my will because I didn't even have family.
Beautifully said, though. I love this.
He had been stealing my tenant security deposits for 7 years. By the time I sold it, by the time he stopped and quit and I was able to sell the company, he had at least $410,000 that he stole. And when I sold the company, I had to take all the proceeds from the sale and pay it back and put whatever was left, which wasn't a lot, towards legal bills.
But I love this story because when you have, and what you call confidence, and you have that, you know, the low functioning vibe, it doesn't matter how successful you are, it will not stick to you.
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable because you're attracting, everyone around you has the lower vibration, and your sense of unworthiness, it will leave.
So this is the introduction to my role in this. So the ego self will say, I got it, I'll figure it out, it's okay, I'll even figure out the abuse, I got this. Yeah. Even when I knew it was narcissism and sociopaths that were getting into my network, I was still like, it's okay, right. I will figure this out and I've got it. And the universe has, it's the best I can describe is it's a self-cleaning machine. It's just like humanity and all the stuff that's going on, eventually it's just going to clean itself and start over, right? And so as much as we try to hang on to that control and that ego and that confidence that I thought I had, it blasted me. It took my friends away. I felt betrayal in a way I hadn't, like.
You didn't realize you're playing different games.
I didn't have any clue.
Yeah.
I had no clue what game we were playing.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, with these books, it's not common knowledge. And I know the word narcissist is thrown about now all the time to mean somebody's like obsessed with himself, or, you know, you picture like the guy at the gym that's always lifting weights and looking in the mirror. That's not what narcissism is. That's not what the cluster B personality disorders are. No. So it's very important to read up on it and really look, and again, not get lost there, but to look at what these traits are so that you're not susceptible to losing your money, to losing custody of your children, or all of these horrific side effects until you are healed.
Right.
So
I got some tips.
Let's hear some tips. And I knew this was going to happen. This is our list of things to go through. We've gotten to number 1. So we're going to have to make this like a 6 months.
Yeah, you can go with questions, but I got tips too.
Yeah, no, this we'll have to wrap it up. So you give me some tips, and then we'll go to part 2 at another time.
Okay, good. So I would say, notice the vibration when you enter. The last thing you want to do when you're dealing with sociopaths and narcissists is you don't want to enter contracts. You don't want to buy property. You don't want to share credit. You don't want to procreate. So any of these,
don't move to their location.
Yeah, you don't want to make a major life change. So I wrote a book too. We can talk about that later, but there's like a 90-day test period where people will show you their true colors within 90 days. If you're willing to sit back and observe, be a trained observer without emotion.
Be a trained observer without emotion and set boundaries, even just little small ones.
Okay. Yeah. So notice, I would say, watch for the big contractual stuff. Watch out for labels. Watch out for your vibe. So if you can, even if you don't know you're healing, or you don't know if you have a problem, because a lot of us don't even realize that we are traumatized. Like, emotional abuse is sneaky.
It's sneaky, and it's completely socially unacceptable
to talk about.
Or to say, I'm trying to heal my emotional wounds. eye rolls, and I can hear the eye rolls, and I, relationships, because they are so emotionally damaging. And it speaks to that movie Gaslighting, where that woman really
That's
did
where
go
the word
insane.
came from, right?
Yeah, because it's so subtle. And you
Mhm.
can, and if you tell somebody what they're doing, you sound crazy.
So this leads me to my final tip before we wrap. And that would be so if you can notice what vibration you're in, just notice. If I'm not really well and I'm not feeling my best, and I know I'm still battling a little too much drinking and too much chain smoking, and I'm avoiding something because it's not resolved, be careful of those contractual, right? Be careful of the people that you call your labels and your friends, because
Right.
they're going to match you at your vibration. So if you can find a way to find solitude, if I could go back and say, girl, enjoy your time alone,
Yes.
and I was so scared that it was going to last forever that I went and touched the hot burning stove just in case. If you tell somebody how you feel, I feel that you're not treating me well. I feel that the way that you said that was a little snarky. And their response is, you're the problem, or choke on your text. I had a girlfriend after 15 years. I said, the further into my healing process, I was like, I don't like the way that you talk to me. And I said, and I said it in a nice way, like, hey, and she goes, you can choke on your text message for all I care. Don't ever contact me again.
That's what I want to say in any relationship. Stay back a little bit and set boundaries, especially boundaries of, I don't like the way you're speaking to me.
If I
Oh my
say
God, you're
that,
sensitive, you're crazy, or you have issues. Be very cautious with those people.
if I say that to my love, I don't like the way you said that, he'll go, what happened that made you feel that way? Can we talk about it?
Yes.
It's
Right.
very simple math here.
It's very simple. Yeah.
If we're always the problem, or we're not allowed to voice how we feel, and you get that lump in your throat.
And the conversation then devolves into a 7-hour where you're like, I have literally done this in conversations with the ex-narcissist. Like, it's like, it's so confusing. And this word salad, which is not to be confused with the term in psychology that describes when schizophrenia or people that have schizoaffective disorder make a lot of nonsensical things. Word salad is where it's circular and it's bending your reality, and none of it makes sense, but it's kind of makes sense, so that you're trying to follow it along, and that's where your head will literally start to hurt.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
another sign.
Having a friend shouldn't hurt. And you'll get a hit in your gut. We'll talk about the 3 brains sometime.
Yeah.
You'll get a hit in your gut and that lump in your throat, and you'll feel like you have to change your being in order to make this work. And the minute that hit comes in, that should be your clue that there's more to investigate.
Yeah. Or if something in the conversation, you and I are out having a glass of wine and chit-chatting, and then all of a sudden I say something that causes you such anger that you just get up and walk away. And I'm left wondering what I said and what I did. And I value our relationship. So now if I then take it on myself, I'll say, well, I'm never going to say that again. Or I feel so horrible, shameful, I made a mistake. That's another sign that that's not a healthy relationship.
Right. We should be able to shine a light on all the dark places of our soul and our being, and admit what has happened in childhood is still in there. And as we continue this journey together, should we continue, the body keeps score, grief recovery, there's shadow work, there's deep, dark basements of layers of work that needs to be done. And those who are your people, the true people, will walk that path with you.
They will walk that path with you, and they will also value your pain and the way you're expressing your pain. And so
And your
that you can,
progress.
yeah, and your progress and
Celebrate your progress. They'll be like,
yes.
you're doing such a good job.
But value what triggers you and what your pain is, and have a way to discuss it. And a friend and I just recently had a thing where I hurt his feelings, I unknowingly, but I was able to say, thank you for bringing that up to me. That's a healthy conversation.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up to me. I was not aware that I hurt your feelings, and I really want to examine that. Let's talk about it.
Right.
That's where you want to get to.
What's my role? If we all have a role in it.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah. And I was able, but then you have the freedom to admit your role. So I looked at it and like, oh, you triggered me. I thought you were acting like this, authoritative mansplainer. That's why I came in like with guns ablazing.
Yeah.
But it was like, so we both grew out of it.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
That's a beautiful.
Isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
And that's the possibilities. That's the possibilities of once you get through the pain. But so I'm going to officially call this like a 6-part series. So
okay.
Part 1 today was how you become a target for this type of relationship, manipulative relationship, narcissistic, sociopath, whatever it is, you're a target. They see very specific signs in you, and how to protect yourself. Number 1, I would say start reading the books.
Mm-hmm.
And don't
hashtags.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kassandra. This has been absolutely amazing. I look forward to our part 2. And before we go, who is your biggest teacher?
My biggest teacher.
Who are, I guess I could say who or what?
No, I honestly, I am at a point in my healing process that these sociopaths and narcissists have been my greatest teachers. And now that I've moved out of the victimhood and into the understanding of my role and how I attracted them, I have a lot of forgiveness for them. And I thank them. And I think if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing work like this with you.
Yeah.
The ripples that I want to make in the universe come from shining a light on the not so great.
Amen, sister. That's transcendence. That's absolutely transcendence when you can look at, especially someone that's treated you so cruelly, and say thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
But then that releases that cycle, and passing it on, or creating more relationships and damaging your children in the.
Oh, it felt so good to say it in public too. Thank you. If you're watching, thank you so much.
I will say thank you too. I love the person I am right now.
Yeah.
That brought me to a deeper sense of self-love, and to actually recognize what unconditional self-love is.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, thank you, my beautiful friend. I will post all the links of where people can find you, and maybe we can even get to your book, talking about your book in the next podcast.
Or the 6th one. We'll see.
We got plenty. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.